to Skill Connect. To give you an introduction about the company, Vertex is a growing edtech platform focusing attention to upskill the youth of today through a plethora of programs made available online. We are a place students in trust where the skills are nurtured with personalized mentoring by industry professionals who mold students into skilled craftsmen of their domain and assist with career guidance as well as incubated development. So when it comes to your career, no question should be unanswered. Presenting to you Skill Connect, an online series of interactive knowledge sharing webinars that cover the most prominent topics of your favorite field.
Yeah. Hi guys. Let's start with what is web development. I guess nobody needs an introduction of web development, but do it anyways. So be it any kind of website, right? A single page website, let's say, a resume or, your portfolio website, or a website as complex as Facebook, YouTube, or even Google Maps. It all falls under the wide domain of web development, right? Web development basically is development of applications which are available on the web or the internet, right? So you open, any page on your browser or even any application on your phone, right? All that goes to the development of the code which executes on your phone, which executes on the backend servers and also the database. All that falls under the term of web development, right? So most popular websites, right, follow the design pattern infrastructure of a client and a database, where the client is basically the end device, right? So you are accessing, let's say, facebook.com using your phone or your laptop, right, or a tablet. So this is terminologically called as the client. Then this client interacts with the server, right? You interact with the computer, which is located in, let's say, Facebook's, data warehouse. So you connect with that computer, and that computer is called as the server. It is responsible for managing connections, authentication, and security. And that server then stores information in a database, right? Let's go ahead and see a small demo of let's say how Facebook works a bit, so you can understand this client server and database architecture a bit better. So what you see here is an example of your opening facebook.com, right? You put facebook.com in your browser, let's say Chrome. Then what happens is you send a request to Facebook, right, to respond you back with a browser, a web page, right? It's an HTML web page, and then your browser displays that web page to you. Okay, this is the initial loading which happens, right? So let's say you're some operation in Facebook. All right, this is simply a visual representation, but you're doing some operation which is supposed to manipulate or store some data. All right, in that case, let's see what happens. So let's take into consideration you're opening your friends list, right? You can go to your friends list in Facebook, right? And this friends list differs from person to person, right? You will have a different number of friends, right? And somebody else will have a different number of friends. But when you open it, it's supposed to show you only the friends which pertain to your profile. So let's see how that works. Your browser or your client, right, it sends a request to the Facebook servers that, what I want to get, right? I want to get the list of all the friends that this particular user has. So there's a get request here. So it goes to Facebook site, facebook.com, and then it wants Abhiraj Kular's details. This is the name of the profile, and it wants the friends of this person. This request is received by the server, right? And now the server is responsible for processing and responding back to this. Now, to respond back to this request, the server needs some information, right? It needs data. What is the data? That which are the friends pertaining to this profile, right? So this data is actually stored outside, right, in a different computer or in a different application, actually, which is called a database. Okay, database, the main purpose of database is to make it efficient to store and retrieve information, right? You can even store information on a server, right? You can simply store information, let's say, on a text file, but storing that and retrieving information on demand, right? Because there will be literally thousands of people accessing their friends list at a given point of time, right? So that will be a complex task. So database basically acts as an application where storing and accessing information is more efficient, right? It has already been managed by the software to some extent. So because the server does not store any information, right? It is mostly stateless and all the information stored in a database, right? So here, because the information resides in a database, the server will get that information from the database. Okay. One popular database is SQL, and in SQL, when you need to get some information, what you do is you execute queries, right? So in this case, the server will execute query. Let's say it selects all the users whose friend is Abhiraj, right? That means all the users will come up. The database will return this list to the server, and the server will then pass over this list to the client, and then client will visually represent this in the UI, right? You will see in the cards, right, all the list of the friends you have. Let's check another request. So this request was not modifying any data in the database, right? We were simply fetching data from the database. But let's also see a request which modifies information in the database. So that would be, let's say you are adding a friend, right? So you will send, you will click on add friend, right? The button on your web browser, and that will be then converted to a request, and that request will be sent over the server, right? Now the server is supposed to process this request. And what does processing this request means? First of all, it will of course do authentication and security, right? It has to see if you are logged in, right? And you have access to add Sudhanshu as your friend. Okay. Once it confirms that, it will modify that information into the database. Let's say in this example, we are simply inserting into friends list, right? You and your friend's name. And then the database will respond back, which will go back to the client. And then on the browser, basically, you will see that, this person has been added as your friend. And the next time you refresh or open, your friends list, you will actually see that new friend, right? Why? Because you will again do the friends list operation, right? The operation that we did earlier. But this time, because the database has been updated with new information, you will get an updated friends list. And that friend list will now contain Sudhanshu. Okay. So this is a very common architecture of a client, server, and a database, right? All companies and organizations follow this. If you open any websites, there's a very, very high probability that this is more or less how, the content to you has been served and processed. So let's understand what is full stack, right? So we saw in web development, there are these three main components, right? Basically means that you should be able to, create, develop, and maintain all these individual components, right? Because an organization needs all of this. A website needs all these three different components to perform, all right? So we need a client, right? We need to manage code on the server, and we need to manage quiz. So managing code on the client is also called as front end, right? Because this is what the customer will see, right? This is the code which will be executing on the user's device, right? And this is what will act as the representational layer, right? This will present information to the user. So it is front in the line in the user's journey, and this is termed as front end. All right. Then managing code on the server is called backend, right? You have many various kinds of servers out there, but managing the code and also the infrastructure and deployment is generally called backend programming. It is again a specialization in software development. And then there is also the component of database. So database actually mostly is handled by backend programmers, but we also have dedicated people who just manage databases. And database management is also a specialization in itself. So mostly the specializations are divided in front end, back end, and databases. And to be a full stack developer, you need to master all of these. Okay. So let's see what is full stack again. So as I told you, we need to master front end, database, and back end, right? But there are a lot of different ways that you can develop a front end code, right? And database and back end as well. So let's see what all options are there on front end. Okay. So front end basically is you're opening a website or an app, right? So there's basically two ways to distribute your applications, right? One is you simply create a link like www.youtube.com. Anybody can open that link on the browser and then they can see it, right? Other is you can also create standalone applications. You can distribute them on, Play Store, right? The Apple App Store, and there's also an app store for Windows as well. So you can do that as well. But actually, the easiest way to reach customers mostly is through links, right? Because installing an application is, does have overheads. Applications do provide, a lot of benefit, as well, because you can send notifications, and there are a lot of features which applications have, which websites are slowly developing, right? But still, especially if a company is starting, they start mostly with a website. For websites, whatever code you will write, okay, that will be processed by a browser, right? If you use Chrome, Safari, or Firefox, all that code has to be processed by the browser. That means the language that you write, that needs to be compatible with the browser, and all mainstream browsers mainly support three languages, right? All these three have different purposes. One is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, the purpose of HTML is markup, basically whatever is visually presented to the user, right? The structure of what is presented to the user is in HTML. Then is CSS, right? CSS is used for styling. So HTML defines the structures, defines how those components will look, right? All kind of effects exist, right? If you see, open a website, different fonts are there, and each font has a different size, and they are spaced around differently. You have images and all that. That is controlled by CSS. And then there is JavaScript. So JavaScript is, the major scripting language that browsers support. And by scripting language, I mean is if there is anything in a website that is supposed to happen programmatically, right? If you click on a button, right, and then some menu is supposed to pop up, that has happened, that has followed, right? That has happened programmatically, and all that has to be then coded in JavaScript. Okay, so HTML, JavaScript, and CSS are the de facto, languages of the web. You don't really, have much options outside this. There are ways to create, websites without these as well, but they are, not very popular. And almost all websites are out there are creating using these three languages. So these are the languages, right? And these are processed by, but there is also something called frameworks. So let's understand a bit of what a framework actually is, right? So framework, when you create a large, right, and you will of course do that using HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, right? You will have to do some standardization, right? Why? Because first of all, you will need to have some reusable code, right? Otherwise, your code base will become very large and uncluttered. And also, you need, this code base to be understandable by other people, because you will be working with a team, right? If let's say you have 7 people on code base, you need to follow some standards, okay? And the better you follow those standards, the better is the chance of you able to, scale your project, make it more complex, and then also, share components inside your project with other people, right? So that is the main purpose of frameworks, right? They standardize the organization of your code. Okay, and because of that, you can now share and exchange more complex pieces of code with each other, right? You can of course share, like if you're just using JavaScript, right, you can share code, like let's say, you want to manipulate a string, right? Like a very simple code, you can share that in JavaScript. But let's say you want to share, a profile card, right, which has a user info detail, a photo, right, and you click on it and something happens. This is a moving working piece, right? And this requires all the things, HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. And you can only share this with somebody else if they have structured their project similar to you, and that is the popular frameworks, right? So most very popular frameworks out there are React, Angular, Vue, and Svelte. The most popular is React, right? And we'll see why that is later. Then let's come to backend. So backend flexibility in terms of what language you want to choose. The reason for that is, in front end, the browser is executing your code, right? But in backend, your computer execute your code. And that flexibility means that you have a lot of options, right? There is, though, you need to standardize the connection between front end and back end, right? And that connection generally standardized using REST APIs, right? And all main popular backend programming languages, they support creating REST APIs. So you can create a REST, Java, C Sharp, Python, JavaScript, and Go, right? And they are popular. Spring Boot is for Java. You can see the respective ones here. And yeah, along with that, you will also need a database. So database is also agnostic of backend, right? Almost all backend programming languages support connecting and interacting with different databases available out there. Databases generally are divided into two sections. One is SQL and NoSQL. We will talk about benefit and disadvantages of both of them later. But popular SQL, MySQL, Postgres, MS SQL, and Oracle. NoSQL, there is MongoDB, even Firebase and Redis. One very basic difference is that SQL mostly is used for transactional operations, right? Let's say you have a banking operations where you cannot tolerate any inconsistency. Whereas NoSQL is used for where availability is very important, right? But consistency is not that big of a challenge, right? Let's say YouTube, right? You open YouTube and you see the number of likes for a particular video. Even if you were reported, the number of likes is a bit let's say, it's what it was 5 minutes ago, right? It's not that big of a problem, right? What is more important is scalability, that you get to see that number as soon as possible. Okay, so this is general trade-off. SQL is more reliable, right, but and consistent, but NoSQL is more available. Okay, so I'll go ahead and explain what Mern stack specifically is, right? Because in Mern stack we have made choices between each of these. Okay, so Mern stack basically means Mongo, right, Express, React, and Node. That means out of all the different frameworks available for front end, we have selected React, right? Out of all the backend languages, we have selected JavaScript and Node.js, and we have selected as the framework. So let's go ahead and see what is Mern stack. So first, let's start with the front end, right? So HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you can't really make an option here. This is, you have to learn this. Then React. So why have why Mern stack chooses React? First of all, it's easy to learn, right? Of all the different front end frameworks available out there, it is one of the easiest. You will find a lot of tutorials out there as well, and once you learn React, it becomes very easy, frameworks as well, especially Vue and Svelte, right, will be very easy for you to learn once you start with React. Then is it's less opinionated. What I mean by that is, opinionated means is, let's take, for example, Angular, right? Angular imposes on its developers a very strict structure, right? A strict file structure, right? And a strict, low-level programming design as well. So what that means is you have to learn the design of Angular as well when you first start learning it, right? And also, it is very difficult to change that design. React, from that perspective, is not opinionated at all, right? It has very, structures in place already. That means that it is in the hands of the developer how he wants to structure and develop his application, right? And that really helps in not only your own designs, but also you can start with a very basic design, and then as you keep on scaling and developing your application, you can alter that and improve it iteratively and naturally, right? Then there is a very large community support. There are millions of people out there who develop using React, and a community really helps. If you have a doubt, right, and you search for it, you will very easily find a solution of it in React, on Stack Overflow. Then there is expansive libraries and components, right? So there are a lot of libraries available for React, and and libraries not only for logic but also for visual design. They are called component libraries. These help speed up the development process, right? Basically, you're taking up code that somebody has written, right, which is reusable, right? And then you can start building stuff which looks good, performs good, a lot faster if you're using libraries. Then there is SSR compatibility. What SSR is, server-side rendered. I'd suggest you look up what it means separately as well. So there are libraries. So there are frameworks called, one is very popular is Next.js, which helps you make your React project server-side rendered, right? And what it basically means is that the code which is executed on the client, is reduced, and the code which is executed on the server is increased. That means, the server processes the page and, responds back with, a very near HTML page, right? The main purpose of SSR is, first of all, to decrease load time. First, put the website name. It will load up much faster if it has SSR, and also for SEO optimization, right? Optimizes their search engine, right? If your website has SSR, there's a much higher chance of it becoming coming up in the search results, right? Then there's also a benefit of React Native, right? So React Native is a framework which is used for developing not websites, but actually applications. And you can use it to develop mobile applications on both Android and iOS, right? If you start with React, moving on to React Native will also feel very natural. I also started, working on a normal React, also called React.js, right, for with websites. And, within a couple of weeks, I was able to, start developing websites using React Native. Also, you can share, logic and some code as well between React.js and React Native. So if, let's say, your company has, both a website and mobile applications, you can, greatly reduce, the time you need to put for updating both of these, right? You can, keep on adding features to both of these, because there will be a lot of code, and, the overall design pattern and logic will be, very easily transferable between both of these. Okay, so these would, are the most popular arguments towards selecting React as a front-end framework. Okay. And also, here is a graph of popularity, right? Popularity makes a huge impact on your development journey. And as you can see, across time, React has taken over almost all frameworks out there. It is, without doubt, the most popular framework out there right now. Okay. Now let's see with backend. So backend, as I discussed, we had more options and flexibility, right? But we are going ahead and taking the conscious choice of selecting JavaScript, right? And Node.js here with the framework. Now, why we are doing JavaScript is because if you start your development journey with front end, right, you already know JavaScript. Okay, and that knowledge of JavaScript, you can leverage that when writing backend code, right? If you have just one programming language to manage, it makes a huge difference on how effectively you are able to navigate both of them. Because a lot of times, you are simultaneously developing front and back end, right? If you, let's say, release a new feature for your website, right, that means that feature will need both back end and front end. You will be simultaneously developing those, helps, right? So we were using JavaScript. What is Node.js, right? Node.js basically is runtime for JavaScript. The JavaScript that we were writing earlier, right? That code was executed by the browser, right? So we can't have, a backend being hosted on the browser, right? So Node.js is basically a runtime. So you can execute Node.js as a background process, JavaScript as a background process using Node.js, okay? And Express is again a framework for creating APIs using Node.js. Okay, it is specifically for creating APIs. Now, the Node.js being a backend runtime, you can create many things. You can even create let's say you can even create video games actually, right? But for web development purposes, we'll be creating servers, right? Servers which will process and serve requests. So why we are taking Node.js, again, one is the main core reason is that language transfer. It uses JavaScript again. Then it is single threaded, right? That means that it has concurrency as part of its design. If you want to have a concurrent API in Java, you need to learn about multi-threading and multi-core processing. For Node.js, you don't have to worry about that. You can learn about how it works in a single threaded manner. It uses something called as an event, and it is inherently scalable, to help it scale to hundreds and thousands of requests per second, right? You need to change very little code. Then again, we have a large library support. We have something called the Node package manager, right, which is a large repositories of packages available, which help you, make your development much faster, right? There are a lot of features that you can simply import using npm, and npm also offers a very dependency management, right? Especially I feel like in Python, managing dependencies is a bit complicated, right? If you keep, like, let's say you import 5 libraries into your project, right? Now if you send this project to somebody else, they also would need to import that, right? And managing this for npm, I have felt is much easier than some of the other languages out there. Then extensive SDK ability. All right, what I mean by SDK is sometimes your backend needs to communicate with somebody else's backend, right? Let's say your backend needs to send an OTP, right? You have set up a login, right? That means the consumer will put in their phone number, right? They will press OK, right? And that request will go to your server, and then your server is supposed to send an SMS, right? So how that generally happens is this server then sends a request to another server, right? Which is, let's say, Geo servers, and they will send them SMS to the customer, right? So there to server communication, there are SDKs available for this, right? And Node.js has very extensive SDK availability. If you open, any popular, let's say platform, let's say Twilio is a very popular platform, right? The first language that comes up, for backend SDK integration is Node.js. If you open Firebase, Node.js will come up first. Now let's see about databases, right? So Mern stack technically stands only for MongoDB, right? The reason I feel for that is MongoDB is much easier, right? And it is easy to scale as well. But in my suggestion to most people would be to learn both of these, right? Learn NoSQL and SQL databases, right? Why? You can see the graph over here with popularity as well. Still, the most popular databases out there are SQL databases, right? MongoDB comes in fourth, right? Followed again by an SQL server and then Redis, right? If you combine, right, there would be a lot of competition between them, but still, across companies I've seen, SQL still is the most used database out there, but companies are quickly moving to using both, right? SQL and NoSQL databases. Like a single application will leverage both of these because both of these have different properties and behaviors, right? So what I've seen mostly happens is that transactional information, right? Let's say user is creating an account, right? Or user is, let's say, adding a friend, or they're putting out a post, right? This is stored in SQL, but then you have this cached either using a NoSQL databases, or transactional aspect of these is stored in NoSQL databases. Let's say the content of the post, right, that gets stored in NoSQL databases. So it's mostly a hybrid of my strong suggestion would be to learn both, right? So that you can have transactional integrity using SQL and high availability and using NoSQL. So then let's go ahead and see some companies which are using Mern stack. If you see Node.js, PayPal, LinkedIn, Netflix, Uber, there are so many of them. You can take a look at them here. Okay, and then there is some myth versus reality between Mern stack and other languages out there. So first of all, a lot of people assume that Mern stack is only it's not scalable, right? You can start building a website, right? But as soon as you have hundreds of customers or even millions of customers, right, you would not be able to serve those. Then you would have to move to, let's say, Java or some other backend. Actually, the argument, right, mostly lies in backend. For front end, HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, right? Those, there's not really another option out there, right? And React is the most popular framework out there. I really have not seen people argue against this front end stack, right? Most arguments, right, which oppose Mern stack, right, and they do have their merits as well, are pertaining to backend, right? People are a bit apprehensive having Node.js Express as their backend. Okay, this myth versus reality will mostly revolve around Node.js rather than front end or even databases, right? So then for Node.js, people say that it's not scalable, but if you are able to code it properly, right, you can see, there's examples out there. It is highly scalable. There are studies out there that have been done between, a server in Java and Node.js and the throughput that they can handle, right? And these are like very basic requests that they made for this. But, in those studies, you can see Node.js, even outshines Java. Examples out there. Now, one challenge with scalability that happens is that for CPU intensive, right, if you're doing a lot of calculations inside your backend, right, there, Node.js does struggle as compared to Java, right? But if you, take, for example, most applications out there, right, don't do a lot of CPU intensive stuff in the backend, right? The backend server code basically, fetches and manipulates databases, it executes, authentication and stuff like that. And for that purpose, Node.js works very well. Then only startups hire for one stack developers. We just saw, there are a lot of companies using these technologies, right? And also large companies, you can see they, tend to become language agnostic, right? So if you have, specialization in one stack, you will be very suitable for startups, right? Because this is a very popular tech stack for startups, but that does not mean that, larger companies would have, problems hiring you. Because mostly they are language agnostic, right? And also they have a lot of new projects that they are building up using Node.js. The reason that large companies, use, let's say, Java is, first of all, it's a very old programming language that's come up just now, right? It's easier to, let's say, find, Java backend engineers, but, they have projects, definitely. And, a lot of newer projects are built using Node.js. Then the code management, right? People say that's not suitable for large and complex projects. So for that, my argument would be people generally look at, right? And looking at that, I see, this assumption being made. But there are other frameworks as you can start your journey with Express, but there are other opinionated and scalable frameworks out there, where your code base can be, hundreds of files, and you can, effectively manage, and a large team can work on that. One very popular one is Nest.js, right? It is very type strict, right, and opinionated uh, backend framework which one works on the MVC pattern. Then people assume that, it's going to be more CPU and memory intensive, right? But it has smaller footprint than Python and Java in a lot of applications, you can see. Then no oops functionality. So most, backend code out there actually, I mean, especially the one in Java and C++, is written using object-oriented programming. So it's basically a paradigm, right? And most front-end applications, especially like, for example, React, are built using a programming paradigm. So because people from front-end to back-end Node.js, initially they start building their back-end with a functional paradigm in mind, right? But JavaScript is a multi-paradigm language, right? It supports both functional and object-oriented code, and you can structure your application in an object-oriented fashion as well, right? And the framework that I talked about, Nest.js, it supports oops, right? So if let's say you have a background of oops, right? You know, in your college, especially, you would have focused on C++ and Java, right? You can use those concepts in JavaScript as well, and they help in, increasing the scalability and maintainability of your code. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhiraj. That was truly enlightening and very informative. Now I would like to invite one of the development managers, Mr. Ajal Ravi, to give a brief overview of the Mern Stack development course that we offer.
Hi guys. My name is Achal. I work as a business development manager at Vertex. Okay, and I believe you've got a lot of information regarding the Mern web development advanced course, correct? Okay, so guys, can I at least see a flash of mics listening to the conversation? I want this to be a very interactive session, so I want you to respond. Okay. So basically, guys, I'll tell you, the advanced course is for people who are looking forward to upskilling them, for people who are looking over for better opportunities at work, for people who want a better pay package, for people who have a little bit of knowledge, but they want to build on that. All right. So basically, by building on that, what do I mean is courses that we offer, right? These advanced courses are basically going to take the normal beginner level knowledge that you have, and we're going to be basically helping you learn theoretically and practically. So our courses basically follow a dual method of learning, which is theoretical and practical learning approach. So the theoretical would basically be with your live sessions and your assignments and all of that, which your mentors are going to be giving to you. And after that, you're basically going to be having ships, industry level projects, and you're also going to be having placement assistance. So basically, whatever theoretical concepts you'll be learning regarding Mern stack development, all of that will be covered and all of that will be applied basically through your projects. Okay, so you'll have various types of projects that you'll have minor projects, you'll have major projects, which are classified under industry level projects. So why we call them as industry level projects are basically because they give you the actual experience and existence that you're going to be having. All right, they're basically going to be giving you the experience that the people will have when they're going to be working in the, basically that is going to give you an idea of what the web development domain or the industry is going to be expecting from you as working professionals. All right. So apart from that, you're also going to be having a multiple plethora of experience that you're going to be getting through your mentors. And once you've applied what you've learned theoretically, practically through your projects, you're also going to be getting a month of internship. So basically what this month of internship is going to help you out with is going to be getting you will be going and working. Either it's going to be an off place or an online internship. Okay, it's going to be an on-site or an online one, depending on how your performance is during your 3 months. All right. So depending on how your performance is, everything will be based upon your internship, will be based on your performance. It's going to be a completely performance-based internship. So during your internship, you're going to be gaining a plethora of experience from the people who are going to be with you and the people you're going to be working under as well, because they are working professionals with a plethora of experience and they can be teaching you a lot of very important concepts that even your mentors will teach you, but your understanding level when you're going to be putting the practical effort in order to be working as a professional, whatever job profile that you're going to be joining in intern, whatever your profile, work profile, or your job description is going to be giving you a lot of experience. All right. And once you're done with your internship, we'll be providing you with 1 month of placement assistance. So basically, why this placement assistance is required? What will we be doing during the placement assistance? During the placement assistance, we'll be basically helping you build your communication skills. Why your communication skills are important? Because if you're going to be sitting for an interview with any company for any job role at any point of time, they will always judge you on how you communicate and express yourself. And if you're going to be having the proper fluency to express yourself as the person you are, then they will understand that you are the right fit for the you're going to be applying for. Okay. Apart from that, we're also going to be helping you build your portfolio and your resume. Basically, all the projects that you'll be doing during these 5 months of your advanced course, all of them will be compiled and added into a portfolio. Now, this portfolio is going to benefit you not only when you're going to be sitting for placements, also it is going to help you add another dimension to your resume as well. Now, how it's going to be helping you? So all of these projects are proof that you have experience, proof that you've proved yourself with the projects that have been assigned to you and the remarks that you've got due to these projects. So these projects have at one point of time, somehow or the other, improved in the professional domain that you're going to be entering into. And that is what Vertex helps you does. Okay. Apart from that, you have industry level experts from renowned companies, which you can see like Unilever, Newzip, IBM, and all of that. So mentors that we're going to be bringing in during the course. All right. And they are going to be taking live sessions, and they're going to be assigning, projects and assignments. You will have major projects and minor projects. So basically, major projects are going to be projects that you're going to be doing. Sometimes it's going to be a group project, which might be a major project, which we'll be doing with a couple of other people as well. All right. And apart from that, you'll also have minor projects, which you will be doing by yourself. So if you have any doubts or queries at any point of time regarding the course, all you have to do is reach out to your mentors. All right. Your mentors are there that are going to be helping you out. They are here so that they can clarify doubts, and they are most importantly for them, they need the clarified concepts so that you can be very clear with them at one point of time. Okay. Apart from that, we also have certifications that we have. So these certifications are going to be provided by Skill Vertex itself. So depending on how your performance is, apart from the certificate of completion, we have a certificate of brilliance as well. So this certificate of brilliance is going to be awarded for people. All right. The certificate of brilliance is going to be people who are going to be showing exemplary performance during their course. All right. Apart from that, once you're going to be sitting for placements, if you want to sit for placements, which is going to be your choice, we have different job profiles with different firms that you can sit in for, which have their own market value of your annual CTC that you can expect, which is again going to be completely performance based, because any company that's going to be hiring you is going to be completely giving you a package based on how you perform and based on the skill sets and the talent that you possess. All right. Apart from this, guys, there's a lot of projects that you'll be doing during the course, and a lot of you'll be learning like JavaScript, PostgreSQL, Node.js, Adobe XD, UX Pin, and all of that, along with MongoDB. So these tools are also going to be helping you when you're going to be working as a working professional as well. Okay. And apart from all of this, basically this course is going to be helping you upskill yourself and become a certified professional. Now, I believe you understand the value of being a certified professional when you're going to be learning from industry level experts as well. All right. And that'll be my time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Achal. Now we'll be opening the floor for a Q&A session. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand and I will unmute you. And we'll go one by one. Let's not make it a... Okay. So first we have Sudhanshu, I think.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, hi Sudhanshu, you're audible.
Yeah, I am in IIT, and I have been in my final year right now, and I want to sit to my placements very recently. So I have a knowledge in Node, and some part of React. How will this course help me in the future over there?
Yeah, so I'll take this question, Shirsha. So you must be like creating, some passion projects and stuff like that, right? And I see that you already started your journey, right? But a course, I believe, is very helpful in organizing the journey, right? If you follow some deadline, if you follow a structure, right, and to be some assignments in this, you will also get feedback, right? If you learn on your own, while that is a good thing, and eventually a lot of people learn a lot of stuff on their own, but you need to get feedback, right? And if that feedback is from somebody who is professionally working, I think that matters. So with this course, you will be consistently getting that feedback as well, and it'll help you complete that course in a given time frame, right? And not let you procrastinate. And at the end of the course, you will also have a certificate, and that is definitely going to help you as well.
Thank you, Abhiraj. Any other questions? Please raise your hand. You can even drop your questions on the chat box.
Vikash, are you there? So basically, the doubt you asked for, right? How much package you're going to be getting for. That is completely performance based and depending on which job role that you're going to be applying for. So different firms will have a requirement for a different job role. Okay. So which job role that you're going to be sitting for is what is going to depend on what package that you're going to be offering.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible now?
Yeah, better. Please
Ma'am,
go ahead.
Vikash and me, we both are learning full stack web development in Skill Vertex. Can you please explain me how this course will help us regarding we are still learning web development in full stack web development in Skill Vertex.
Sure, Ganesh. Would you like to answer?
Yeah, hi. So like I already I iterated on this earlier as well, but of course the course will have a standard structure, right? So that you know what you're supposed to time. There will be timely assessments, right? So that it is ensured that you're only able to move ahead if you have already completed everything prior to what has been taught, right? Also this is a very extensive course in terms of web development is a very extensive field, right? Mern stack is one of the most popular stacks, right? It's a very good starter stack as well, right? Your development journey, right? The journey of career of software engineer spans many years, right? It's not that you will be only developing software for 3 years, 4 years, right? And the stack is going to change, right? Mern stack is not going to be live forever, right? After 10 years from now, technology is going to change. But what matters and helps is you get a holistic and an overall exposure. With Mern stack, you will first be able to start with things much faster and easier, and also you will get a holistic view of all the different moving parts. A lot of times what happens is that people start their career in front end or only right, and they tend to get compartmentalized only into that, right? Context from different area, organization, a company, but if you have, let's say, a background in both, right, it really makes you stand out, right? If you go for a back end role in a company, right, but you already have some experience, right, in front end, that helps you become a better candidate, because now you have that perspective of front end, right? When you're writing code for back end, you're basically writing code which will be used by somebody, and if you have that context and experience, you can design for the front end person better. You can make the lives of the front end team better, and the vice versa as well, right? For front end also, if you know the challenges that a backend team might face, right, you will design your front end that way, and you will be able to even suggest changes and coordinate with the team better. Coordination is also very important, right? As Achal said, that communication, right? So main purpose of communication is coordination, right? As a software engineer, you don't need to give out interviews to people, right? You don't need to go on TV. So then why is communication important? It is because it will coordinate with the rest of the team, right? Eventually the software that you will be building will be built by multiple people, right? All of them will be contributing and building the same thing. And over there, communication is important, right? And becoming a full stack developer is being a better communicator in technology. You'll be able to communicate, easy, across domain. Thank you.
Joining. Please stay tuned for our next Skill Connect webinar session. For now, a feedback form in the chat. Thank you.